Folks, you are tuned in. Mr. Josh podcast, video cast in this case. Sometimes I break away from my normal format. I like to do interviews. You're lucky to be with us in this video because I'm going to interview a very special artist and somebody that I met many, many years ago. And come to find out through the perils of social media, there still are positives. And I linked up with this gentleman off of, we hadn't really talked that much, but, and I'll go into how we met, but why we're even sitting here today. And his name is Marc Mauro. Did I pronounce that correct? It's Mauro.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Okay, Marc Mauro, Italian fella. And he made a comment that I found I had to say something about because I felt strongly about the person that he had left a comment on. And it was kind of what I took as a very pro comment. And I personally felt negative. And it was surrounded to Greta Thunberg, who's the climate change girl, kind of been co-opted actually by her parents to fulfill this role for the world, certainly for Europe. She's a much bigger star in Europe. And I don't view her very positively. I think she's just the same Kool-Aid and the same bullshit that we've been fed. And they like to use children for that. I think it's very selective how they do that. How Nick Sandman, who was getting his face drummed in by the Indian, is an asshole and a racist and everything he was considered to be when we knew nothing about him. And a Greta Thunberg becomes a spokesperson for a generation. And I just can't swallow that. Not even important. What that did was link us up. And I started paying more attention to some of Marc's social media. And what I then come to see was he changed his avatar to one of the most iconic photos, if you're a Trump fan, was when Trump hugs the flag. I mean, we've never seen anybody, let alone a president, hug the flag, and he was so proud of it, whatever. And when I saw that, I mean, I don't think I cried, but I knew this fucking guy was for real, man. I knew he was for real. Nobody would put themselves in a lack of dignity or so stoic or presidential to do what he did. He literally hugged the flag like a little kid hugs his fucking whoopee. You know what I mean? And so I saw you had that, and that got me thinking, wait a second here. And then I looked a little further, and I saw that Marc, while he wasn't maybe a big Trump fan, he was starting to become a reality to what's going on in politics fan. And I'm going to let him speak and give his piece. Marc is a phenomenal artist. I know him as a photographer. I'm going to let him speak about himself before when we get into any of these topics. So a phenomenal photographer. That's how I know him. I was afforded an opportunity that they flew me to New York to meet him and another gentleman. And I wrote Marc's bio, and I wrote an article about him and what he's done. And again, a phenomenal photographer of people, animals, nature. And he'll speak on that and what his background is. So with no further ado, at Marc Mauro is one of the ways you can get hold of him on social media, marcmauro.com to the website. He hosts a show as well called The Hour of Power. He has way more episodes than me. So I'm going to give him the floor. He's in that ominous green that you see right there with a green orb in front of him. Maybe it's something that'll tell us the future, something positive for Trump in the future. Who knows? So the floor is yours, Marc. It's a pleasure to speak to you.
What's up, Josh? Thank you for the great introduction.
You're welcome.
I got my crystal ball here. You usually see me on my show. I light it well, but I wanted to do a little something different for tonight. A little more ominous of a look. But yeah, so let's just jump right into it.
About yourself.
Well, what's there to say? I'm a jack of all trades. I do a lot of different things. Have done a lot of different things in my life. But what I gravitate most to, I guess, is art. I love to inspire. I love to be positive. I always like to push people to eat better foods, better body. I think that I feel in my life I've made a lot of mistakes, not because of any more. So all of the mistakes that I've made have been because of misinformation. And the more that I live and the more that I'm you know, learning and having more access to information through the internet, and the more that people are connecting, the more that I'm realizing is all these mistakes that I've made in my life is through misinformation. And misinformation is really been bothering me a lot, you know, especially in my later years in life. You know, I've always wanted to be an artist. It didn't matter to me what type of art. I love sculpting. I love painting. I used to be a big spray kid. But you know, I fell into graphic design. Love graphic design. Love doing graphics. You know, to bring to bring that natural. I don't know. I always had this saying that you know, if you're ever walking on the ground and you see all this, you know, all these cards on the ground, if you're not picking mine off the ground, then I didn't do the right job. So I like to do graphics that catch people's eyes. But you know, when you met me, I was a big photography guy. You know, I fell into, you know, I fell into photography. I love shooting because I feel like I can do the actual same with my photography that I could do with graphics. I always wanted to be a filmmaker. Did some time in film, but I had a very rough time with filmmakers. I just might have not found my tribe at that point in time. I think as life goes further on, I think it's, you know, the more you find out who you are, I think life is about finding out who you are. I think some people find out very early. I think some people find out, you know, very late. I think some people don't find out at all. But
what would you say? What medium would you say that you're focusing on now? Are you still dedicated to photography, or what artistic medium is consuming your time now?
So I love to shoot, but I feel like my ideas have been capped by my budgets. And, you know, in this world, either you figure out how to get your ideas done, or you have to kind of figure out some sort of way to finance your ideas. A lot of people will sell out. They'll work for a magazine. Well, you know what? Let me not use the word sell out. Some people will go to work for magazines. I have a little bit of an issue with that, only because I think that I prefer funding myself. But to answer your question, I want to shoot. You know, I want to get these ideas out of my head. I would love to slowly transfer to film, but I also love the fine art area. And I would love to get my photos into the fine art area. And I feel like if I can somehow whittle my way into the fine art world, which I'm very confident that I can, I feel like I could, you know, find that financing to, you know, bring my art to the next level. It's the, you know, anybody who's an artist knows you're going to have to fund yourself and fund your studio and you're going to have to find a way to fund your ideas. I think that's the dangerous part about being an artist, because you could end up in a very dark area, you know, trying to become successful, you know, and that's where I think the soul is lost in a lot of artists. You know, a lot of artists tend to fall into drugs. I think a lot of artists tend to fall into a bad area. They follow suit. Oh, this is what we do. You know, a lot of people are desperate to make it. And there's been plenty of times where I had offers on the table. You know, things didn't feel right, you know, and I'm sure that's going to come into this show. I think it's going to come into play in this show, because everything that I've been learning is explaining to me why I turned my back on film, why I turned my back on the photo industry, why I turned my back.
Why don't you explain what you learned? Because yeah, I think you said that this became a correlation to where some of your mindset that you now have today was the groundwork was laid for that from previous experiences that you had in what you refer to as Hollywood, or just the upper echelons of those businesses. You don't have to name names or anything like that, but what did you experience? What apparently from sounded like negatively to me. What negative experiences did you have earlier on in this particular career field that now today you kind of reflect on and see that, oh yeah, this not only goes on, this might go on a bigger level of some of the things that I was explaining to you earlier when we kicked around the idea of doing this show.
Um, yeah, I think there's a lot of evil in the world. You know, I think that there's a lot of manipulation, especially in art and fine art, in film and photography. From all my experiences, in order to get to the top, uh, there comes a price. You know, if you're not willing to do it for yourself, um, you know, as an artist, as any artist knows, you're looking for that funding. You know, you're looking for that key win. You're looking to get on that key team, that key squad. And I'm not saying it all works like this, but you have a choice in life. You know, you can team up and you can fall into, you know, the routine, and you can slowly move yourself up the ladder, which I'm not saying everyone, but I'm saying from a lot of the experience and a lot of what I've seen, I don't think that's me. You know, I felt like from my experiences, okay, so when I do my art, right, I have ideas, I have visions, I get visions, and I start to see different things, and I want to execute what I see in my head. I want to execute my visions, and when you know move forward with that, if it rings true, if you're a true artist, if you're executing what you believe, people start to take notice. You know, I believe there's two types of artists. There's ones that think they're artists, and then there's ones that are real artists. A lot of artists get pushed underneath the bus because, you know, they're not. I think anytime you take a step towards the fashion industry, which, you know, what's the best way to say this? The top of film and fashion, and I feel there's a lot of confused people and power hungry people running the top, and it's all, there's a lot of when they find an artist with a lot of passion and they find a great artist, you know, for them it's like almost like I want to collect this person, or a trophy. I want to take them. I want to put them on a shelf. I want to say that I own them. I want to say that they're part of my team. Um, it's never about your choice. I'll give you a perfect example. So I love the Bruckheimer team, but you know, I love their films. I love everything that Bruckheimer does and creates. But at what price? At what price does it cost me to become part of that Bruckheimer team? You know, at what point do I you know, what is it going to cost? You know, what is it going to cost me? Is it going to cost me my soul? There's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of people in the art industry who, you know, make an excuse to want to, you know, be a part of your art, or they want your art, they want to represent your art, they want to be a part of your art. But there's something else behind that, because I don't think they're as talented as what they see, but they know how to recognize the talent. So for them, it's, you know, what can I do in order to break this person or break their spirit or get them to owe me? Or it's never genuine. Okay, that's a better way of saying it. It's never genuine.
Right.
It's very rare when you meet somebody who says, I love your work and I want to genuinely hire you and pay you because of who you are, because of what you do. And I'm going to let you roll and give you free reign because I like what you stand for. I like what you represent. I like everything about you.
I think the
So
only time you're going to get something like that is that maybe that someone that commissions you who just loves the art, and whereas you're referring to someone who's going to hire you, or a studio or a production company. When you mentioned Bruckheimer, for those that don't know who that is, his name is Jerry Bruckheimer, and he's, you know, one of the most famous producers in Hollywood. perhaps of all time, but certainly in modern history, and puts a lot of big blockbuster films together for people that don't know who he is. You know, one of the things Mark alluded to, I think he's dancing around it in a nice way, is that, and I was telling him this earlier.
Well, you could have at it. Go ahead.
Well, here's how I view a lot of what you said, and then I want to hand it back over to you to where it brings us to modern day, to where you are, where with your mindset and how this affected it. I always tell people, first of all, let's understand how important entertainment is. And when you talk about art, we're talking about TV, movies, music, and sports not really being an art. Those are the four things that we worship in America. We don't have a royal family, and we don't worship God here anymore. They've tried to eliminate Jesus and God, except when it comes to other religions, except Judaism, because they don't really like that either. So I guess I'm leaving it at Islam is the only one they don't touch. But when you only worship those deities, which we do so greatly here, and I always break it down that the kids worship the music, and everyone's a fan of all of this, but kids worship the idols of music, women worship the idols of TV, men worship the idols of sports, and everybody in one kind of collective group, the fourth one, worships movie stars. So that's the way I tend to break this down. Now, I that's the preface to this point.
Okay, yeah.
With that worship, they take on a huge importance. Okay, that's why there's so much money involved in all of this. Going back, let's talk about music and Hollywood tend to be more linear. Sports is not even going to be a part of this equation really anymore. And TV is much the same. They are run by studios. This goes back a long time ago. Let's talk pre-internet. Let's talk pre-indie independent studios.
Sure.
You had your MGMs, you had your Paramounts, you had your the MGM is with the lion, and you had 20th Century Fox and all these major studios, which also bled into TV as well. They knew, like, if we can make movies, we can make TV. Very similar in their production. So these entities go back a long way. And I told Mark this, I tell this to everybody. The talent is aplenty. You can watch American Idol now, and American Idol is a fascinating show for what it's worth, because American Idol showed you there's talent everywhere. Regular folks that just showed up for this and then went from this pool of maybe a million down to thousands, down to 10, down to 1, what have you. It's fascinating how they go ahead.
Just to put an exclamation point on that, I think everybody on this planet has artists in them.
Mm-hmm.
I've always believed it. What your art is your journey of life. You know, you can be an artist, you could be an artist that creates a way to get to the moon or Mars, you know, and in your own right, you might not be able to paint worth a shit, but you're an artist that putting a company together and getting yourself, you could be
right. There's an artistry to all sorts of things.
Everything.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think everyone has something in them artistically, and it's a part of your journey to A, recognize it, and then B, figure out what it is. First, you have to know you have it and be interested in trying to pull it out, and then to know which kind yours is. For me, I think it's more the ability to write than anything else, than whether it be to draw or to create, to sculpt or whatnot. That's not something that would be a strong suit for me, as opposed to the ability, like I did for you, is to write and to accentuate things and explain things out that are appealing, to read. Going back to the point, so these powers that be really what they refer to as the kingmakers, and they use this also with elections too. Like, who are the kingmakers? And that's literally anointing. Who is going to anoint the royalty? And so the talent is aplenty, and it's what they start to do is they will tap so and so and so and so and so and so. But with that comes the promise, like you said, of, well, what are you going to give us? Because right. we have thousands of you. There's thousands of Brad Pitts and actors, and there's thousands of lady actors, and there's thousands of rappers, and there's thousands of pop stars. Why you? So if you're not self-made totally, or you didn't go or you avoided the corporate route altogether, you can avoid this. But if you didn't, and every major star didn't, whether it is Taylor Swift, whether it's Kesha, whether it's Beyonce, whether it's Lady Gaga, and these are major stars. They're all part of the major labels, and the same thing with movie stars and whatnot. So these kingmakers, they're the ones that decide. And one of the things we've come to find out is these kingmakers might sexually abuse you, or they're going to make you sign in blood. And as crazy as that sounds, it's legitimate. This is where you get your Illuminati situation and who the Illuminati puppets are. There are certain names that always come up as who the say again.
So they're not as talented as you, but what they will do is, I think it's a game for them. Okay, so it's like, you realize very quickly that, hey, I have access to money. If I'm at the top, I control, that, and I want to break the spirit of an artist, or I want to, it became very clear. So there was a time where I was creating my art underneath question mark. And whatever it is I wanted to do, I would fund my own shoots. And the images would be insane. And that's what got everyone noticed. I'm sorry, that's what got everyone to notice. And that's when, all of my art started taking off. And then all of a sudden it was like, well, I want to hire you to do this, and I want to hire you to do that. And coming from a family where it's like, oh my goodness, you got to take every job that you can, and you're going to turn this into, as every artist knows that you're going to have to make money to survive, to run your company. So you're going to start taking jobs left and right, and then next thing you know, it's that exchange for that dollar that gives them the ability to then tell you what they want. And you could find yourself in a very sticky situation where it's like, well, you're going to let me do my thing. And then all of a sudden, what happens if they don't like what you did, or they don't like your vision, or they don't like where you're headed? And 9 times out of 10, there was always some sort of conflict where it was like, no, we kind of see it like this, and we kind of see. Now, it doesn't matter if they see it better than you or what. I'm not like a Gestapo. If you shoot an idea at me, or you let me know what you have in your mind, or there's something that you don't like, and it's like, well, why don't we try this? If I can see it and it makes sense and you add to it, I'm very open to taking criticism. I'm very open to taking, I get not criticism, but I'm very open-minded. So I like to listen to other people's ideas. You never know what. I think it was Lucas who discovered, he found Harrison Ford as a carpenter on the set. So, it was like, hey, this guy might have a little something in him, and so you bring him on, but then you can't manipulate. They want to manipulate. They want to manipulate you into doing what they want, because they don't have that ability to do what you can do. So their thought process is, well, I had part in that design because I changed this and I changed that. So how much of that do you sell out to? Like how far do you let them go to alter your vision and alter your art before it becomes their idea and not your idea no more? And when there's money involved, when there's some sort of money exchange, they then begin to tell you how to behave rather than you telling yourself how to behave. And that is where I think the sellout, that's where you go astray. That's right. So that, I guess, in a sense, is the part that and it's just not I want to mold you into your art. It's deeper than that, bro. I want to mold who you are.
Yeah, you, not just your art, but you.
Right.
Did you ever think, you said you wanted to get into filmmaking? Did you ever think of documentary filmmaking, maybe even before jumping into actual filmmaking? Whether like actual movie filmmaking. How do you feel about documentaries?
Well, believe it or not, it's funny you asked that question. I have 2 documentaries underneath my belt
Tell us.
I have one about a Madden league, which is if you're familiar with the Madden film. I'm sorry, if you're familiar with the Madden game, John Madden football. I came across this very interesting video game league that was taking place in a basement.
Huh.
And it had, there was just grown men. It was, you know what? I'm lying. It was everybody it was like 18-year-old kids to 45-year-old dudes. And at the time I was probably around, maybe I want to say I was around 28, 30. And I was good friends with them because they were filmmakers, and he had busted a camera. So I did some, from the neighborhood, from a guy, it was like, do you know how to operate, Aries? And I'm like, yeah, why? And it was like, well, this dude has a film jam and he's going to lose a whole roll of film. I said, yeah, all right, let's, and I went over and I, black bagged the camera, and then I got the film out. And so when I unloaded the film, the dude was just like, we got this man. We started talking, and then I came across this leak. And this guy, it was literally insane. This guy had TV set up everywhere. He had like 7 different this was literally like the first video game league before any of this competition video game stuff started.
Now it's a huge industry.
It's huge now. And he always had this vision called the Cyber Sports Network. But we didn't have at that time the internet. Like, we didn't have social media. We didn't have
access. So this goes that far back.
Oh, yeah. So I grabbed my DV cameras. Like, I was running all mini DV cameras. So I grabbed all my mini DV cameras and I just started documenting it. And before that, I had documented we used to rent a house in the Hamptons all the time. And so I documented all our summers in the Hamptons. And I thought it would make a great film if 20 years later, the film, I actually want to call it 20 years later, was if I actually shot and interviewed everybody almost 20, 25, 30 years later from when, have them watch the footage, and then, look at them now. I mean, I have friends that are just like, I'm never getting married. You know how you are when you're 18. It's like, I'm never getting married. I'm going to be single for the rest of my life, and then, 21, 22, 23, you're drinking and you're partying. And it's like, oh, I'm never going. And then like 30 years later, I have all my friends who are married and I want them to watch the footage and film them. So, okay. So the point of the question is I love documentaries because I feel like they're real. They actually capture genuine people and genuine reactions. And so I started gravitating more towards these just real stories, interesting stories where I'm not against films, but I feel like a lot of that stuff is acted. So I have an issue with people who act, bro. I feel like a lot of this world lies to itself. I feel like a lot of people lie to themselves about who they are. They're lying to themselves.
Too many non-actors are acting too. The actors in Hollywood, we've come to learn, tons of them are pieces of shit.
Yeah.
And that we look up to for no reason. And we've come to learn that even just friends of ours and people that we know are all actors as well, kind of like where we get the term phony from, because everybody's always putting up an act. Whenever I hear people overuse slang all the time, it's cringeworthy to me. I don't care whether you're black, white, what you are, if it's Ebonics, if it's whatever your thing is. Too much slang is acting to me. I find that to be always a big act. So it's kind of off-putting. You're right. I don't like actors either. And acting is a lot of phoniness. Good actors know how to act and fool you or to convince you that they're a whole nother character. That's what Hollywood relies on, is for these people to be able to do that to you and convince you through their acting that there's somebody completely different. Well, imagine that there are people doing that all the time in your life that aren't even in Hollywood.
I'm going to take it even one further, because I'm going to tell you what really became the fake explosion revolution was social media. When social media came along, and you're talking about a guy who like dominated MySpace. Like when I saw MySpace, I ate it up. It was just like, oh shit, like I can actually get my art out to the world through I'm really curious if Tom is a Democrat, liberal, or Republican. I'm really because I did very well on that site up until the point until he sold it.
It's funny. We never, not to interrupt you, but we never kicked around what the political leanings were for Tom from MySpace. That's a very interesting point. Yet we've come to learn from Silicon Valley now, the other huge platforms post MySpace, oh boy, do we know their political leanings. That's kind of funny.
Right.
We didn't really know Tom's. We didn't really care what the CEO of Napster's politics were.
Right. We never looked into it.
Yeah.
There was never a reason.
There was never a reason. But now it's a reason.
Yeah, right. Now that I'm looking back now, because I had a terrible time with Facebook. Like me and Facebook just did not get along. Right. And I found my art having a really difficult time getting it out there. And then Twitter, there was just something about Twitter that wasn't appealing to me. And then Instagram,
the most evil platform of all of them.
It's just there's a lot of hate on that platform.
That's it. You're right.
And then, then Instagram came off and it was like, oh, look, it's all image based. Oh, look, like I'll do really good here. But then it started to become more about like, let me take a selfie of me doing all cool shit. And
another facade. That's Instagram is all acting as well. Your whole profile is a fake front to a fake life of staged photos. And even funnier, do you know that they found that all these Instagram influencers actually go to this one studio that has a fake Learjet set up? So when they show them doing a lot of Lear jetting and jet setting, it's actually a studio with this Learjet fake background with seats and whatnot to profile your phoniness.
Yeah, well, at that point, when I realized that they're more interested in seeing like how cool your life is rather than let me just judge you by your art. So Snapchat came along, and at first I was like, you know what, I really like this Snapchat. Like I snap a lot. So, so I just started snapping and going at it and going nuts. And I was making these little movies. I would make them with my grandparents. I would make them, I was just, and people started like, this is funny, bro. Like you got to take these and put them out and you got to drop these. I bet you these things would go viral and so forth and so on. And then I found myself really starting to like do things to like impress my Snap audience. And I fell into like this whole, I fell into it again. Like, okay, so, I skipped a small thing. So back in the MySpace days, towards the tail end of like my art run, and I was tallying somewhere, I think around 160 to 180,000 fans. The most fans that were on the site was, I think Forbidden was topping out at like 3 million. So if you actually did the math, I did this, I sat down and I did the math. So if you actually took like the biggest person on Instagram today, which might be, I guess, the card. I haven't checked in a long time, but I think it's one of the, they're somewhere up there around 200 million, I think. So I guess comparably to them, I would have been somewhere in the neighborhood of like maybe somewhere in between 30 and 40 million almost, or maybe even 50 million. I was literally, you know what, maybe I'm going a little too high. Maybe I would be somewhere in between 20 and the point is I was on my way to the first million, and I was growing really, really fast. And that's what like really started, boom, I was addicted. Like I knew it. It was like a drug. It was like, because I had all of this, I had this fan base now, and all these people were loving my art. And then I found myself almost living for them. Because every morning
that becomes part of the problem.
Yeah. You lose who you are And now you're starting to try to appease 180,000 people with every photo, every photo you're shooting or every project you're doing. It's like, I got to outdo myself. I got to give them something great. And then if you don't get the likes that you want to get, and it might not necessarily be that they're not a fan of what you're doing. It might just be like, it's a busy week. It's Thanksgiving. It's Christmas, or it's in the summer and not everybody's on their phone. But you don't realize any of that. You don't have a clue about any of that.
Right.
You're just sitting there like, why aren't they liking me? And you go one step further, and it's sort of like the way you watch the destruction of a beautiful woman, because it starts with the injection of the lips, and then the injections in the ass, and then the tits come along, and it's like, well, why aren't they liking me more? And now you're destroying yourself to try to get people to like you.
This is very common with YouTube stars. This is what you're echoing is something that happens when people have 1 million followers. I mean, you could have 500,000, whatever. It's the same theory. But when you start getting into some of these big numbers, and you're not a celebrity, or where you're used to it in some way, you're a YouTube celebrity. Yeah, and you need to have fresh content all the time, and they're very demanding of you. Fans are something's wrong with them. Remember that the term fan is a shortened version of the term fanatic. Not everybody knows that. Sports fans are sports fanatics. And a fanatic, if you look up that definition, is not positive. It's basically a crazy person. If you are fanatical, they use that term sometimes even with religion, that you can be fanatical about religion. That means you're overboard. So understand that when you're called a fan right off the bat, that's a disparaging comment about you. That's why I always kind of pride myself on never being a fan of anything except sports, which, as I've told you, I've now jumped completely away from. I don't want to be a fanatic or some sort of, mark or sucker for anybody. And I think that the term fan exemplifies that, just adding on to what you were saying. And it's unfair that a fan base would have these kind of expectations of people that it could drive them even crazy.
I think you could get sucked into a black hole, very quickly. And I felt that happening with MySpace, and I felt that happening with my photography. And I found out that, now talking about it and thinking back to it, it wasn't the fact that I was shooting great photos that really started to ignite everything that I was doing. It was the fact that I was meeting a lot of celebrities, and I was taking pictures with them. And sometimes the photos of me taking pictures with the celebrities would get more likes and more hits than the actual photos of me creating art with them.
Of course. Well, surprise, you're
right?
piggybacking off the celebrity of the celebrity.
So at that moment, it was like all of this attention started coming my way. And it was like, why am I, and people were showing, I was like, people that I couldn't even get to answer an email would run here from Connecticut, Pennsylvania. And it would be like, but it was because of this like celebrity, now this celebrity artist aura that was like, that I was creating around me. And it was like, well, what about the art, man? What about like all this energy that I'm putting in? And it wasn't that anymore. It became like, who's the next celebrity can I shoot? Who can, right. It didn't matter who. It was just me running around, chasing after somebody, trying to like appease an audience, going to that next step, and talk about like total addiction. Like you get completely addicted to that. Sure. You wake up every morning and you start banging your head up against it, and you lose yourself. Like you lose yourself in all of that.
And Speaking of, sorry, go ahead.
I just found myself getting lost, and then I didn't even know who I was anymore. At the time I was dating. We happened to actually meet on the set, and she was a model, and I don't think I would have even remotely, this relationship should have been over in 3 weeks. I don't know even how it got to 3 years. Right. I remember that the first fight we had, I slammed the phone down, and it was just like, yeah, this is not for me. But that also came with all of that. It also was a part of all of that aura, that hoopla, all the attention, the celebrities, the connections, the parties, But it was like, what about the art, man? Like, what about the art? You know, the art got lost. My art, the shit that I wanted to do got forgotten about. It didn't become about that anymore. It became more about who's the next celebrity, who can I shoot, what can I do to get the next likes, the next hits. So at that point in time, it's like, imagine you're an artist and you're on a road and you're on a path and you have a goal and it's what got you through the door. But then the minute you get through the door, it's like you're, or you know what, maybe you come to a split, and maybe a better way of saying it is it got you to a split in the road, you know, and instead of going left, you went right, you know, and you didn't even know you were going, you didn't even know that you were going right. It just, you went right. It's the complete same path, just on a very negative, very negative way. It's still you, but it's, you're becoming now a dark version of what you were. And if you're not paying attention to this, you could become you instantly become a negative version of this, of a positive, of the positiveness that got you here. You know, and in the beginning, it was about the images, and it was about who do I want for the image, and who do I feel attracted to when I'm looking at them, and who are the vibes, how they speak, the things they represent. And it was those were the people that I was going after in the beginning. And it was like, okay, everything would work out perfectly. And then it completely, like almost like completely reversed. It was like I was looking for the people that would bring me the attention that I could then put my ideas on, but the two weren't, like, it wasn't linking up. It wouldn't match. It wasn't clicking. You know, it wasn't like the puzzle was, it had the wrong piece in the puzzle, but I didn't know why. Because it was like I would shoot my ideas and then it would be like, no, we don't like that. No, that's not for us. No, that's a little too much. No, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? And it was like, this is not working out for me. Like, my art was harmed because I was making all of the wrong decisions based on something completely different, you know, completely different. You know, I see a lot of artists today, and I see them like get involved in, because you always hear YouTube people or podcast people, you got to talk about the current events. You got to, and I try to stay away from current events because I feel like now you're like moving your art into like a reason why people will like it. You know, it's like I follow this one artist, and I don't even want to say his name. I think he's a phenomenal artist. And I saw him draw a real shitty photo of Trump.
Oh, right.
And it was like this big fat rat. I'm not even going to say his name because I don't even want people to go look it up. I don't want people to see him. I don't want even get any attention. And this is a guy that I wanted to invite on my show because that's how great of an artist he was to me. And now when I look at what he got swept up, he decided to like use his art and his talent to like disrespect somebody who I thought was a genuine person. And then it immediately became clear, like, oh, bro, you did this for hits. You sold out for hits. Like, you sold out for attention. You sold out because you knew a lot of people would like or dislike this, you know, and then you used your art to benefit off it. Meanwhile, you shit on a really good dude. And then I got turned off, you know, and I remember like I left this dude a comment before I deleted him and stopped following him. It was like, yo, I really looked up to you. I thought you were a phenomenal artist. I'd look forward to everything that you did. This right here was a complete mistake because it's not necessarily what you did against someone who I think is genuinely good, but it's the fact that I now see you sold out for the attention, which means you're fake to me. Like, you didn't, like, you might genuinely hate the dude, but I don't see the reason, and that's okay. Anybody's open to their opinion, but you now use your art for hits, for the attention, to get, you know, you injected your opinion of someone in what's taking place right now. And you know what? You can do it. That's fine. But you took a side against someone who, you know, I don't genuinely understand why a lot of people are taking that side. And I'm I'm a very loyal guy. I will fucking fight to the death for something that I believe in. If I feel like that, if I see genuineness in someone, if I believe they're being genuine and they're not doing it for likes or hits, you know, these are the people that I look to work with now. You know, I look for these people. There's even, you know, I believe there's even good celebrities out there. You know, it was very difficult for me to see. You know, I believe it was very difficult for me to see maybe, you know, 15, 20 years ago or 10, 15 years ago. But now, I guess the older I get and the more I learn and the more that I see, you know, and like I said, some people find their way very early in life. Some people find their way, you know, very late in life. Some people don't find their way at all. But I was always a big fan of 50 Cent or Curtis Jackson. You know, I admire his hustle. I admire I always admired his drive, the way he went against the system, the way he talked about it. Like he didn't care. He that was him. That was genuinely him. And I saw him do some stuff on social media, and it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I backed off of him for a while. But, you know, the more I start to understand the way he uses his Instagram and his humor, and then I started so there's people out there that I would like genuinely shoot because I like who they are and what they represent. And I would like to like better my art with them. But like I would never use my art to shit on someone.
Right.
You know, I felt like that's what this guy did, and it completely rubbed me the wrong way. And it was like, bro, you did this for hits because you know this is like a hot topic at this point in time. Like, why would you do this? Like, you completely had nothing to do politically. And it's not even politically. It's just like you just decided to go after a target that you knew was going to get you a shitload of hits, and you went the wrong way on the target. And I could see it. And I know eventually down the line, there's going to be a lot of apologies and there's going to be a lot of, well, shit, like I didn't realize this. And maybe there won't even be, you know, maybe there won't be. But, you know, it's you can use your art for good and you can use your art for bad. Just quickly touching on what you said with the film industry. It's not the film industry and it's not the music industry. There, you know, it's the fine art industry is terrible. The magazine industry, magazines like Vogue, magazines like you know, some of these bigger art magazines. These people who run these magazines, they want your soul. Like it's about your soul, you know. And you see this a lot in music and rap music. There's rappers that I literally, I would, if they called me today, try to listen to a very, so when I hear like, so it's very difficult for me to follow rappers, but like when I hear somebody speak real and genuine, you can hear it in their music. Like you could genuinely hear them speak about their life in their music. And when you hear their voice, and you know they're in control of their music. It's like, and then all of a sudden their music takes a turn where it's like, all right, I decide that I'm going to take a side because I'm going to get hits from this and people are going to, and it's like, whoa, that was a bad mistake. Like you just decided to take a side and you just decided to like go against somebody that I genuinely like. And you did it for either attention, you did it for your, so I don't want to get too off track. I don't want to get too off base, but when I always felt in MySpace. So MySpace, I felt like was that like the first time you put that photo up or one model place or the time that I started showing my art and you got those likes and you got that attention and I was getting phone calls for TV shows and I was getting phone calls for interviews and magazines were coming out and whoa, like that success. Like for somebody who never had that before, it's like, whoa, it's attention. You like it, you know? And then all of a sudden the hot chicks started popping their heads out and it was like, okay, well, you never paid attention to me before. And now all of a sudden, look at me now, you know? And you get caught up in that shit. You know, it's like a drug, you know? And then you, right. Like any drug, you get addicted to it, you fall deep into it. So there came a point where it was like, yo, I'm not who I am. I'm not who I used to be. This is not who I like. I don't feel confident inside. I'm addicted to doing drugs to forget who I am. I'm either drinking or I'm smoking 24/7. This is never who I was. I believe in hell. You know, I believe in you. So you weren't born with a bottle in your mouth. You weren't born being addicted to heroin or pills. You weren't
Right.
born with any of that. So you shouldn't need it to be who you are. And then so many artists become addicted to it because it's like, oh, it makes me feel so good. I feel so alive. But you should be able to attain that from being natural.
Sure.
But you lose yourself. And when you lose yourself, this becomes your crutch. It becomes your happiness, your way to, it becomes your way to survive. And it's like, oh shit. Yeah, and then it gets even worse because you become addicted to it, and then throw that attention into the mix of that whole thing. And now you're literally working for attention, trying to keep your career alive. You know, you're not yourself. You're completely drug and drinking reliant, you know, and your fan base might be dwindling, or there might not be enough attention, or you just might have to reinvent yourself. But you don't look at it like that. You look at it like, why aren't they liking me anymore? And now you got to go a step further and a step further. And now you're completely on the wrong path. So I felt that, like I genuinely felt that happening to me. And then you're working with people who are trying to like rip the soul out of you, and they'll just use you. And they won't even, like, the minute you start to fall from grace, it's like, we got to go find the next hottest thing. Like they could give a fuck. They could give a fuck. Because all of these people that are you're the fanatics, all of these people are only following you because you're hot at that moment. Oh, did you hear about question mark? Oh, question mark. Oh, Q. Oh, question mark. Go see Q. Go. Oh my God. Did you see what he did today? Did you see what he did? You know, and that's why they're following you. But the minute you become normal, the minute you become average, the minute you show them who, it's like, oh, he's boring now. Like, I got to find somebody more interesting.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting point you make. Everybody has a shelf life, and everybody, you hit it on the head. Hot or trendy, is actually a searchable term when people are looking up stuff. So it's not even about artistic integrity, which hot and trendy could still have. But like you said, a lot of people only follow stuff because it's hot and trendy. It doesn't even have to be good. I
Right.
mean, if it was trendy to smear shit on your face, people would do it just because it's trendy, when clearly it's a retarded. I don't want to use retarded. Clearly, it's it's the wrong thing to do, or not something really smart. But if you made it a trend, people would follow it, or if it's hot, and if the
Right.
right person's saying it's hot. And it's funny how people will gravitate toward that even when something isn't necessarily good. Kind of like modern day rap music is the hottest music going, and it's at its worst phase that it's ever had since its inception as an art form. It's the worst it's ever been, yet it's the hottest it's ever been. And rappers today are thriving off of the fact that it's the hottest thing. um you know, you've gone on a long time about um your background in this artistic world, and some of the pitfalls, and your opinions on that. I'd like you to keep going. What I think we're going to wind up doing is maybe splitting this and doing a second part. We'll have Marc back for a second interview to talk about where he is politically. I don't want to go into all that just now, because I think that was going to be kind of the meat and potatoes of a lot of this show. But I'm more fascinated in what you've been talking about in your background so far, and what's made you who you are. And then we can do a whole, second part on where your mindset is, and how you feel as a patriot and as an American, because that's really going to take a while. I think that, again, that was kind of a big point of why we're getting together and why we're talking now. But I want to be able to, I'd like to keep going on what you're talking about with some of this as an insider's perspective of in the art world, and photography, and the things that you're familiar with. Um, you know, like you said, drugs and a lifestyle can always become a crutch. It can be addictive, part of why it's addictive is it is fun. In drips and drabs, these things are fun. Everybody likes to go out and have a good time. Everyone likes to party. Everyone likes to be adored, enamored. So I think it's very common for people that if even given that opportunity, because that's the key, would get addicted or fall into that trap. They just never even have the opportunity to, so they're never tested. But it's a common thing that happens with people in all walks when they start hitting some sort of modicum of success in any sort of artistic world or sports world or what have you. So you were making some really good points with that. Do you care to share with us any specific anecdote or story that you may have about a specific celebrity that you've either shot or that you have something very positive, story about, or someone that you really, really like that you could share that you've done anything artistically with? Anyone stand out?
I have a story, but it's not positive, and it ends kind of negatively.
Well, I mean, do you care to? Do you want to share that?
Sure. Yeah, I could talk about that.
All right. So go ahead. What's what is the?
So there was a time in my life. So I'm a huge hip hop fan. I'm a huge hip hop fan. I
Right.
love. There wasn't a time where my father wasn't kicking in the door. How you listen to this shit, And I would go to sleep listening to Tupac play. I would go to sleep with Biggie on the radio on repeat. So in the morning
Right.
I would wake up and you would just walk into my room and it'd be like, motherfuck this, motherfuck, and my father would say, how the fuck how do you sleep to this shit?
Right.
And but I mean, it was more because it was the poetry, it was the art of the poetry and the way that they manipulated the words and they got it to go along with the beat. And there's an art to that. And then
Sure.
there's a lot of passion in that. You hear a lot of passion in their voices. And when it's, for me, it's like, it's inspiring, to hear someone speak. And, I think you cut yourself a little too short in the beginning of the show because you said writing was your thing. But you were a guest on my show. And I got to tell you, you knocked it out the park. You were so passionate.
Oh, thank you.
And the way you were speaking and the way you delivered the message, it was so understandable. You had everybody going, and I know my group. I know my crew. I know who comes. I know who goes. I know who watches. But they were all like, "I love this guy. I love this guy." And and it showed me a side of you that I never saw before. Because I was like, "Damn, like he's pretty good at this. He's got a good voice. He sounds good. Like he's into this." And Sure. So I'm a huge hip hop fan, and one of the groups that I loved because they weren't fake. Like I would follow regimes. Like I was always a big fan of NWA and that regime, and I was a big fan of Murder Inc. and that regime. And you always see
Murder Inc.
You always see the torch being passed. So there were two regimes that I was a huge fan of. One of the regimes was Rough Riders, and the other regime was the whole G Unit, 50 Cent, Eminem,
Lloyd Banks.
Yes, yeah.
Tony Yayo.
Gosh, what was there? The Dirt, him, Bizarre.
D12.
D12, thank you. So you had those were my two favorite regimes. I wouldn't say Cash Money because they never really got into any beef. I think that whole Cash Money. I think the Cash Money.
I hear it now.
Oh, you hear?
I hear something now.
When he likes what he hears, he starts going off.
Yeah, you start talking Cash Money. We got ourselves a little Wayne fan over there.
Yeah. I was never a big fan of Wayne until someone pointed him out, and then I must have listened to a card or two over 30 different times,
Right.
probably a lot more than that. I just used to let it play. And that's when I became a Wayne fan. Because he had a deep. I like rappers who have deep messages, who I feel like really speak. How they're not playing towards the audience. It's just like, this is my life. This is what's going on. This is what I think. This is how I feel.
You know, I was never a huge Lil Wayne fan, but you must give Lil Wayne credit in the rap game from being a 15-year-old kid on Bling Bling who probably stole the show on that track to become a rap icon, and he truly is. I mean, maybe he doesn't go on the Mount Rushmore of rap, but he's definitely in the top 50, maybe for some top 25 MCs of all time. And he put forth his own style. No, everybody copied Lil Wayne's style now, doing the skateboard thing with the hip hop thing and the so you know, you got to give him credit for that. And you're right, Lil Wayne had some deep. Lil Wayne actually, you know, I don't know if he wrote all his shit, but he had better lyrics than a lot of people give him credit for. Some really good wordplay. He didn't rhyme in the typical fashion that other people did.
Right.
And yeah, he was kind of clever. He was not a wordsmith. He wasn't
Yeah,
old
right,
school
right,
hip hop.
right.
He was definitely like, you know, a mainstream pop rapper, but he definitely did it as good as anybody. And that's saying it as someone who's not a fan, but I could tell you 10 Lil Wayne songs, you know, that I definitely listened to, you know, more than once.
I like. So Eminem is very slick with his words and his metaphors and the way
Sure.
he manipulates things. I feel Lil Wayne is in exact parallel with Eminem, just in a different. I don't think he's as
That's
big
pretty
as
bold.
I don't think he's as big as M, but I think he has that 6 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot. There was a lot of different like little tricks he played with the words. And if you get me to think while I'm listening, it's like, oh shit. Like that was pretty slick how he put, because most guys are just rapping straightforward, you know,
Right. He uses the backwards wordplay and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
he was very good.
You gotta be a
Are you
little,
familiar with the song No Love, which
yeah,
is the two of
yeah,
them?
yes, of course,
He's
yeah.
got a great part on that. It's the one with that Hadaway kind of beat, you know, don't hurt me no more. And but Eminem destroys that song. Like Eminem's bars in that song. I thought Lil Wayne had a good part, and then M comes on there and absolutely pretty much sets the entire thing on fire. Eminem's an interesting person. We don't know if it's a clone or not. Eminem's a lot of people think this is a clone. His looks and things have changed. Very interesting character. Someone who may have also sold their soul in a way. Very interesting character. You know, once you got with Dr. Dre, who discovered him, Dr. Dre is a part of that interesting musical cabal there, a direct acolyte of Jimmy Iovine, who's also an interesting character as well. But yeah, Eminem, you know,
Rap,
for some,
rap.
this is the greatest MC of all time. It's kind of funny that this white man co-opted a musical genre in the way he did, much like Elvis co-opted rock and roll for from a lot of, you know, black artists, that Elvis became the face of rock and roll for a lot of people, and to this day, you know, is considered that to many people. Eminem, I
You
mean,
so just huge Eminem fan. Thought Rap God. I don't think he could ever duplicate
another
or
good one, another good one.
I
You
don't
know,
think he could ever duplicate or beat. But unfortunately, I can't speak about him no longer because I felt like he went against something that I believe in, and now he's un-American.
yes, he played the cool thing. He went the group thing, and he actually embarrassed himself when he did that video in the garage. When he came out of nowhere, and I think they put it on the MTV Music Awards, and it was like, he's got a message for Donald Trump,
I didn't even see.
and
I didn't even see that.
oh my God, it's one of the most humiliating experiences of this guy's career.
You didn't
I
see that?
thought it's you have, I'll send it to you. It's one of his weakest rap performances. The lyrics are terrible. And yeah, he spends 5 minutes basically gutting Trump. And
I didn't. I didn't even see that. I'm not even going to look. I saw him say.
You'll be disappointed.
I
You'll
saw,
be
I saw him say some other shit, and at that point in time, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I understand why I was hearing it, but I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And at
He's
that
not
point,
following politics closely. He is going with what everybody just goes with a narrative that they were told. So he's definitely.
I think it's a father issue thing.
That's entirely possible. But you know what? I didn't have a father, and for some reason, I know
You had
not.
you had some sort of male role model in your life.
No, this is what's crazy. I actually did not.
Really?
So I mean, in short, my parents split at 5. So just to give you a quick rundown, parents split at 5. Father was an alcoholic and a wife beater. My mother left to save herself. So she left me with the bad guy, saved herself. I would visit her. I remember I lived with him from 5 to 8 years old. So my male role model was really an absentee alcoholic father that was, I would say neglectful was the best part. I grew up fast because I had this man that was just like, all right, do whatever the fuck you want. I'm getting drunk. And so it was very easy for him because I wasn't up his ass and just doing my thing. And he certainly wasn't paying attention to anything I was doing. So it was a free for all for me from 5 through 8, which was first, second, and third grade. My mother then meets Jewish guy, and his name was Joel. Very cold man. Didn't really treat her all that well, but he wasn't an alcoholic and he wasn't a wife beater. He was just a kind of a cold, obsessed with his work and loved sports. Didn't want to be bothered.
Okay.
Certainly he took no interest in me. So, I mean, he wasn't any sort of role model other than he put a nice roof over my head. And if anything, I probably was exposed to some Judaism at that point because he was a little more, he celebrated the high holidays, happy Hanukkah to everybody. I think it's around the corner or tomorrow or whatnot. And he celebrated these high holidays. And that was my first exposure to it. I grew up with no religion. We had a Christmas tree every year. That was just not important.
You had to learn discipline from somewhere.
No, I mean, Mark, when I would implore you actually to watch one of my podcasts if you get a chance where it explains my life in a lot of detail. Okay. No, I am just different. And I lack plenty of discipline in many regards. It's my stomach will tell you that. But I am disciplined in other ways. You know what it is? And I hate to say it, I don't say this with any ego or bragging. My intelligence level is so high that I make better decisions than not, even though my whole life situation should lead to more bad decisions and proper decisions. Anyone who's walked in my shoes is a heroin addict, is in jail, is a depressive, maybe suicidal. I lost a mother, a father, and a stepfather, basically a man who was in my life for 20 years and did more for me than my father did. And I lost all of them by the time I was 40. So talk about loss, only child. So there's no brother or sister to turn to or siblings to ask for help from or to lean on or to have a conversation with or to cry to or to visit on Christmas or any of these things. So it's a lot of, it's a solitude, loneliness kind of thing in that regard. But no, everything about me is kind of self-taught. It's what I started realizing that I was different. I don't even think I'm from this planet. I feel like I'm from another dimension.
I often say this about myself, anomaly. You might be an anomaly.
Yes.
Because I through my journey and just, dabbling in politics through my journey, it was like, okay, so I identify for some reason with all the right or the conservatives. And but yet I agree with all the topics on the left and as far as bettering the planet. And so, but yet I'm a big fan of Trump, right? Who loves fracking, and I'm like the furthest thing from fracking. I understand why we need it, but I'm a very health conscious, plant-based, all of it, and so here I am trying to figure out like where I stand, but why do I like this guy? And it might just come down to be we are people who can recognize genuine people.
So that's why you like him. He's genuine. There's no phoniness to the
He doesn't put-
situation. Not a slick politician. Not somebody who for years and years was hoping to get to this point. And the big payoff was in politics. This man already had his wonderful payoff. This man already accomplished everything. So he
Right.
actually went out of his way. And I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole because I think we should do a whole show on this. But
Yeah,
this man stopped a really good life to take over the reins of the United States,
he didn't.
not expecting to win. You got to understand, this guy didn't expect to win. He started realizing shit was real when he finished in second place in the Iowa caucus, and then he won New Hampshire, the second state, and that's when everyone knew, and the media was even like, holy shit, this is for real. This guy's resonating, and this is going to happen. He's in this for the long haul. It took two states for him to know that.
I don't know about that, Josh. Just from watching a lot of videos of him and listening to the younger him and listening to him speak, yeah, he's the type of guy that's just like, I don't get involved in something unless I know I can win, or I'm pretty confident I'm going to win. I just think
this is true, but this is the presidency of the United States. He's gone on record as being. Remember, you're right. He's a winner, but remember this.
I don't know how to
he ran twice under the Reform Party. We talked about this.
Right.
He made no headway. This guy knew, he's had businesses that have failed. It's not 100%. He knows baseball. You don't bat 1,000. Not even Don Mattingly did that.
Okay, so he knew enough to pull out. Like, he knew enough to draw, like,
just didn't get any traction under the Reform Party.
And that was not the time.
He was dipping his toe. Yeah, and it wasn't the time. He was dipping his toe. But once, remember, it becomes a trial, and those caucuses and the primary gives you an idea of at least what the American people think. Winning in business and winning in politics are two different things. And he may have been confident, but everybody knew this had real legs after the first two, because he performed on such a level. He may have taken himself seriously, Mark, but not everyone did. He didn't have a fan base at that point, of a political fan base, because we were just getting to learn what he was about, right? Nobody knew what Trump's political is. Now, you're right. If you were a Trump fan and you go back and watch their old videos, and this is one of the things that sold me, this guy's talking 30 years ago, the same things he's talking now.
That's right. That's right.
You're absolutely right. So he was always, this is what makes him genuine. Like you said, this is what makes him real. No, he's never changed. Anybody who questions Trump should go and watch the old Oprah video. It's on YouTube, where he's a young man. And she even asked him, are you going to run for president? You should run for president. She's kind of pushing him. And he's like, no, Oprah. He was much more soft-spoken. He's like, no, Oprah, I don't think that I would ever do that. But if I felt that I needed to, he left the door open 30 years ago.
No, he
you know what I mean?
There's a better interview. I don't know who it's with. So it's a show on Netflix, and it's clearly done by Netflix because it's trying to paint him in this like terrible.
Right, it's negative, right?
But there is this one interview where I don't know if it's Barbara. I don't know why Barbara Walters keeps coming. There's some blonde lady interviewing him in his office, and he clearly says, I don't know, maybe I'll become president and fix the country or something, and.
He used the same reasoning for why he came and fixed the country. Isn't that funny?
I'm telling you, he had it in his head back then. So,
well, he definitely floated the idea. Do you know who Roger Stone is?
I don't think there's no such thing. I don't think there's no such thing as like not knowing. Like, he knew that, like, he saw himself then. He saw it because the way he said it.
He also had to give up a really good life to do that, because look at what his life is now. Look at what this man has been through. They want to put this man in jail. This guy, there's talk about, is he going to pardon himself, this and that. Like, they're playing for keeps here. We talked about what he messed up. He messed up he put a wrench into a very, very well-oiled 50-year machinery.
This is who he is.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So, but he put his family on the line. He put his businesses on the line. He put his his safety on the line. I mean, there's people that want this guy dead, and he's put himself in a very precarious position to save America, and he must be commended for that. All these other people that do this, this has been a goal for them their entire lives. You know, Barack Obama is a politician who this was a goal, kind of anointed and handed it Manchurian style. But for a lot of these people that get into politics, this is an end game for them as the presidency. They built to that. They're a slick, sculpted liar, smiling manipulator, you know, shake your hand and promise, make promises they're never going to deliver on.
Right.
You know, remember, that's a big thing about Trump was I delivered what I said on my campaign I was going to do. We are so used to people not doing that, that's a cliche too, by the way. Isn't it funny that we are so beaten up as a society that we have accepted the cliche of another lying politician who just says one thing's going to do another, but we accepted that. Can you fucking imagine that?
For wait, hang on. I don't think we accepted it. I think that it was slowly diluted into our thinking over the course of maybe 40, 50 years.
Yes.
And that's like another whole conversation, because you have, you know, you have the Chinese right now. They're not like, it just so happens that now all the information is dropping right now.
Right.
So it's like you have videos of the Chinese talking about how they've been infiltrating our entire political system now for 30, 40, and they said 3 or 4 decades. You know, if you want to dilute and what's America? America is all about being strong and confident and commanding and alpha, and you know, we're going to lead the way, and freedom, truth, justice, courage, to go out there and sail across the seas and plant your own flag. Like, this is everything that we fight for, everything that's right, you know. And if you want to blow up something from probably something, the strongest thing that there could possibly be, it's like you got to dilute it from the inside. You know, it's a cancer, right? Think about cancer. So cancer starts off as one little cell, and then it just starts multiplying in different places, in different areas, and then it just starts to grow and grow, and then eventually you can't overcome the cancer, and the cancer just destroys. So to me, it's like there has been a slow dilution of who we are for a very long time.
It's always done very slowly, and you're 100% right about that. But for anything to become a cliche, it has to be broad. You know, everyone has to kind of use it or agree to it. And one of these cliches that we've acquiesced to it. It's a big word, and not everyone knows what it means, but it is. It's the slow integration of the acceptance of something over time that we have no business accepting. And if we were angrier about it, we would never have acquiesced to it. But we're so used to it on both sides, and there are no choices. It's an illusion of a choice. They always said that the Democrat and Republican is the same thing. That's why you don't really identify it with a party. You shouldn't. You're forced to in this country. I mean, even in a primary, you are forced to register with a party, and you can only vote for that party in the primary. I mean, think about that. They are pigeonholing you into making a decision, unless you're going to be an independent. But for most people, they're not. That you better pick a side and go with that side, so we can label you that side. You know, but at the end of the day, we have acquiesced over time to these people not delivering, that they're liars, that their favorability rating. It's funny. I find it funny that people are so mad at Trump. We wanted a non-politician for years because the favorability rating of politicians is so low that you figured, well, here's someone who's not, and nobody got with it. And here's someone who's not a staunch Republican, he's not a staunch Democrat, and that wasn't good enough either. And it was like, and we wanted a businessman. I mean, Ross Perot made big waves when he was a businessman. So Trump checked off every box that we thought we wanted. And
everything,
and it wasn't good enough. And, you know, and not to interrupt you, but let me just say, from the very beginning, how did they remember how they beat this guy up? He's a homophobe. He's an Islamophobe. He's an anti-Semite. He's a racist. They found every way to insult his character. Oh, he's a misogynist, you know, and
yeah, because evil is on the internet, bro. Evil
But
lives on the internet. That's why I
right.
had to get off the fucking internet. Like
Well,
that,
absolutely. It's all
that
proliferated there now.
looking back in time and saying to myself, like, all right, you know what? I see Facebook doing great. I'm going to go back to Facebook and let me start a fan page and let me start posting. And it's just like, I just don't like these people. I just don't feel like they're my crowd. Right. And then I transpired over to Instagram, and I was able to drum up 12,000, 13,000. And then now I think I'm at like 9,000, you know, and it's like, because my fan base is disappearing because I got to that site and I was just like, yeah, I don't know, this don't do it for me either. Like, I don't like anybody on here either, you know. And then Twitter, it's just like I think I started that account like 10 years ago. I got like 130. Would it be different if like, so I'm gonna just, is it all right if I just steer back before we get too deep?
Yeah, no, steer back, because I think this would be a good spot to where we could stop, and then we can do our part two on the politics of everything.
All right, so just that, I didn't mean to get distracted and go so far off base, but
No, you're fine. We're jumping around. Go ahead.
you wanted me to share a story, and so I was a
Ah,
huge
yes, please.
all right, so I was a huge fan of hip hop, and there were particular guys that I have listened to over the years, and their words, their songs, their tracks, their stories, their speeches, their stories of struggle. It inspired me to be a better artist. And I said, if I could ever have a chance, like, who are these guys that I would shoot? Like, who are these guys that I'd listen to every night while I edited, and they fired me up to make me want to shoot better? And then I would play their shit during shoots, and it made me a better artist. And two of these groups were that 50 Cent and M and Lloyd and G Unit and D12. But there was no group like Rough Riders. Like, I loved Rough Riders. I felt like they had the most amazing lineup. And I thought Swiss Beats was one of the best music makers on the planet. I felt like I loved Drag On. I loved DMX. DMX was real as shit.
I have a very soft spot for DMX, honestly.
DMX is still real as
You
shit.
talk about genuine.
Yes.
DMX was genuine. That's for sure. He did not do this. This was not for the glitz and the glamour and the lights and the bullshit.
No, he loved the life. He loved it, and he fell into hip hop. I think he got lost. I loved Eve because she was like that first real gangster chick, you know. Not like I felt like Kim was a little too.
Well, Eve was a really talented rapper. You're right, and Little Kim was complete eye candy and didn't write one lyric. Biggie Smalls did her whole career. Yeah, Eve was a talented female rapper, and for her time, there wasn't, you know, there was some maybe back in the 80s, and MC Light may have had some talent in that, but you're right. When Eve came out, she was genuinely a very talented rapper.
Yes, yes, and so they had, and then they had the younger guys. They had Cassidy, who was like, he was as real as they come, and he was he was ripping people up in battle. Like, there was nobody who could beat him.
He was a good battle rapper.
Right, he was great in good battle raps. Like, he would torch people.
Never had big commercial success. Didn't play the game. Wouldn't play the game. A lot of talk about him. Very interesting interviews with him.
Right. So, but let's get to the story, which
is, let's hear that. And we're gonna wrap up on that note and finish your story about and I guess you're going with Rough Riders. So tell us a story about your experience in photography. I assume this is photography related.
Yeah. So my biggest, the group that I wanted to shoot the most, that I had, so Jadakiss, the Locks, D Block, and they were part of that whole Rough Riders group. And there was
a Yonkers connection there for people. Right. So go ahead.
Okay, so those were like idols. Like, I looked up to those guys. Like, those guys were like, wow. Jadakiss, the shit that he would say, and I would listen. Him, DMX, like, I wanted to shoot them. And I felt like I could do a video for them like nobody could ever. Like, I knew I would have shot their best music video. I felt their music more than anyone. just the way Kiss would speak, and then you got Luch and so stop.
Styles P.
Stop. No, my bunny's gonna eat through the wire.
Okay.
So yeah, Styles, Sheik, Jada, and then I knew it would lead me to DMX, and I wanted to shoot like I loved everything those guys stood for. They were real.
Right.
They weren't like these fake bougie dudes. They were real. It wasn't like, I loved the whole Diddy period, but Diddy was all about like glitz and glamour.
Yeah, no, this was more grimy. DMX was grimy. The guy was homeless, he lived on the streets.
This shit was real. It was real rap. And so like Kiss and so it was like those were the guys that I wanted to shoot. So for almost like 5 years of becoming this big artist, our paths would always, cross, but there was never this opportunity to shoot them. And then, and it's funny because I even made friends with them on Facebook. I shot people and they knew who I was. They knew QUESTIONMARC. They knew me. And I would like, my thing was like, bring them to the studio. I'll comp them on. I don't care. Just bring them. Like, these are the guys I wanted to work with. They inspired me so much. I wanted to return that inspiration through my art. And it was, our paths would always cross. It turns out that a little bit after that, I got a chance. I had a friend who was working with them, and he was making an app for them. And he was like, I can get you a chance to shoot with them. Do you want to meet them? And I was like, yeah, sure, absolutely. So I went down to the studio where they were putting on a show to perform. They were practicing their show for their next concert. So I just, he snuck me in the back, and he was like, just hang out here. You got your camera, you're going to shoot. And they were dressed like shitty. They weren't dressed. It would have looked like I would have grabbed them off the street and like shot them. And that's not really, and they, like we knew, because his pitch was like, I can get you the in. Right. But it would have to be like a shoot on top of like the building. And, so he convinced them to do a shoot. But when I was looking at them, they weren't clean cut. They were just doing the shoot so that this kid could put together the app. And then they brought me in, and here I am, like this white dude, and the room was completely black. Everybody was black. And I'm like this white dude, and I'm walking in with my camera, and it's, and they couldn't see me right away. I was in the back, and they had the lights on them, and they were all doing their show. And bro, you know how like Trump was hugging that flag and loving that flag? Right. It was like, that's how my face lit up. It was like, oh my God, like here they are. Like my camera got me to them. Like, yeah, here it is. Like, this is awesome. And I can go through a list of these people, but I'm going to focus on these guys because this is what really disappointed me. So when I was in that room and the lights shut down and everything was over, and my friend was like, okay, so we're going to bring them up to the, and I was like, Chris, I was like, this is not a good look for them. I was like, can we do something where we can get them to the studio and I could light them and give them, we could get wardrobe and we could like, let's give them a real, like, I want to give them a, like, don't put me in this position. It's just me snapping a photo with them. That's going to be you. Like, let me get them to the studio and do a real shoot. So it came, lights went off, everything went off. And it came to this opportunity where I had a chance to meet them and introduce myself to them. And the way that they came off the stage and looked at me and the vibe that they gave me, and it was just like, I almost felt like the enemy. And in my mind, in the way I was, they weren't the enemy to me. They were like, I knew these guys. Like I felt them. Like I knew who they were. I could tell you each of their personalities. I admired how they got their contract away from Diddy. I knew everything about them, It was like, they were funny. They were on the radio talking about like, I don't know, maybe a fridge will fall on his head. And I was just like, oh my God, these are my people. That's some shit that I would say. Like they really are real. But, it never occurred to me that there was perhaps some white racism in them. For whatever reason, look at what we're going through now. And I felt that when they came off the stage and they looked at me, I literally felt that, like, who's this white kid? Like, what does he want? Like, and then Chris was like, well, he's the photographer. And, you know, I didn't even, just the way that they stared at me, and it was like, well, you know, I was very skeptical. Like, what's that dude doing here? Like, he's not one of us. And then it turned me off so much that I didn't even want to shoot him. Like,
Right.
it turned me off so much. And they released some music later on. And, you know, Jada did some songs where he was talking about, you know, you hear a lot about the white man, the white man holds him down, and the white man this and the white man that. And at that point in time, I lost all respect for them, you know, because I was just like, now I understand why they looked at. I didn't even want to work with them no more. You know, it was just like, this is how you don't even know me. And you have this opinion about me. And I could just see by the way you're looking at me, you think I'm here for something. When in reality, I'm a genuine fucking artist who wants to take my talent and uplift your career in some way, shape, or form. Because
Right.
all of the photos that I've seen you guys take look like shit. So like, I know I can give you guys a better shoot than anyone who's shot you. So, you know, just
Yeah. Not only am I trying to look good, make you look good, but I genuinely, in my heart, you know, favored you. I looked at you guys in a
yeah,
positive light,
I
and
want to
you
see
were
you
looked
do
down
that.
upon, arguably without maybe being straight up told, but you were being looked down upon for your race. And in a sense, that's reverse racism, you know, and which you're told doesn't exist, or that it can't, only white people could be racist. I don't really understand any of the logic behind that. But in a sense, you were being mistreated because they didn't know who you were. And then they just, you know, there was a disdain for you for who you were, one, you know, and that's that could be pretty shitty. They always say, be careful of the people that you idolize or that you want to meet, because once you meet them, you might not like them anymore.
Right, right. You know, if you follow them on social media, you follow their music, you listen to everything, like like you hear about the white corporate man and the white corporate man this and the white. So like, okay, so like the white corporate man is holding you, but you're successful. So what are you complaining about now? Like, there's no reason to complain because you're all doing well. You all have money. You obviously clearly all made it. You're on the internet. You have the opportunity to you have the opportunity to be bigger than you've ever been by developing a fan base. But now, like, the more and more that I listen, I hear more and more about like the white man is the problem. The white man's holding us down. So this is the music that you're pumping. This is the message you're pumping to your people, where it just, I don't know, man, the whole situation just turned me off. You know, it was
So
like,
how did it come to an end? You never shot them, or what happened in regards to that?
I never even pressed the situation again.
Right.
My
You were
friend,
just so turned off.
yeah, that was it. Like, and
And this
that's
is many years ago, correct?
yeah, this was about maybe 5-6 years ago. Like, I finally had that opportunity to connect with them, and at that point in time, and I didn't know why, but then like I would listen to some of their later albums, and it just like the bitterness started coming out more and more, and I was just like, damn, these dudes really hate everything about white people. Like, I don't like. I could sit here.
Hard to swallow.
Yeah, I could sit here and say every single one. I could sing every one of your songs just as good as you on stage. Like, I know your songs probably better than you guys know your songs.
Yeah.
Like, I am your biggest fan. And then like when that happened,
Pretty shitty. You know, it's always funny. Whenever I've had this kind of conversation with black artists or sports figures that are down on white people or hate white people, I always think to myself, you know, you wouldn't have any of the riches that you have unless white people liked your shit.
yeah,
There's still a large fan base of spenders. You got to remember, I don't know if you know this, what percentage of the population of this country is black. Do you care to guess what percentage is black?
yeah, I'm gonna go with 9%.
All right, that's a very good guess. Most people overshoot it. You're under by 4%. It's 13%, of which, and it breaks down 7% women, 6% men. So 13% of a population, which is very small. Spanish, I think, or Hispanic or Latin is higher than that now. It's about, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's under 20%. So I'm going to say about 17. So if you take black and Hispanic, that's 30%. And then your other little fringes, you know, your Asian, your Native American, all. But that's why I'm bringing that up is at the end of the day, this country is still 70% white, a good 67%.
Right.
And why I say that is that that's who's buying a lot of this stuff still. And
Right.
so for any rappers or for any anyone that's in black entertainment in any way, you definitely will take that white money, and you definitely gonna, if you want to hit major dollars, if you want to make big money, you have to appeal to a white fan base in some way, because, and that's not a racial thing, that's just, that is the biggest group of consumers in America. That's the breakdown.
If you would have asked me top 5 dead or alive, like if you would have just asked me, Jada, I would always put Jada, and I'm not gonna take him out because like I'm a little baby, you know, like oh, they didn't like me, so you know, or they didn't like. Jada to me is like one of the best rappers on the planet, like up there with,
very good rapper.
You know, the way
top 5 might be a stretch. That might be, that's your heart. That's your heart coming in.
What? That might be 10 years ago. You know, that I don't know. I can't say who's done what since, because the more and more that I listen, the more and more I realize like a lot of black rappers pump this message about how the white man is evil, and the white man, you know, is slave driver, and the white man is this, and the white. Meanwhile, meanwhile, I don't know how to like break it to you, but you know, as a Democrat, I never owned a slave. I never made anybody pick cotton.
I don't know anyone that did.
I don't know anything about that shit. Like I was born, I was grown. Now, what was I? You know, did I ever live in a world that, you know, where, you know, cops were you know, on top of me or mad at me? Like then again, I never lived in a world where I was doing shit illegal every other day. You know, so how could you be mad at people doing their jobs trying to protect?
You know, I always find the cop thing interesting, and I don't want to veer off into this because this will make for a good second show. But the cop thing is always interesting to me, because even as black, like if you're black folks, white folks, whatever you are, and you're just living your life and you're not doing anything criminal, just regular folks, you know what I mean? Right. Your interactions with police are what, once a year, once every 2 years, once every 3, like you're never fucked with police unless you are speeding. You know, you're pulled over in a car, then you're gonna have an interaction with police, which isn't racial typically either, but that's usually, or maybe, just maybe, you were acting up, or you were in a scenario maybe in a downtown area where there's police around or something like that. But for the average person, they never crisscross with police. They just don't. The average person,
and all the cops,
black folks, you know what I mean?
All the cops that I know, black, white, like. So when I was doing the choral thing, I used to have the entire precinct in my living room because they were all fish tank guys. These guys were fucking sweethearts. Like they were some of the best people I ever met, and I'm still friends with a lot of them to this day. So I never saw like this. But then if you actually watch videos and you actually watch, because you know the internet now releases all this information where you can see events. If you see the shit that they got to deal with day in and day out, like I can understand where guys get frustrated, where shit happens, where people get shot, where they got to worry about their lives, where they got to go out there and get disrespect. And why? All because of this whole fucking cops. Stop selling drugs. The cops won't fuck with you.
Right. That's a big part of the problem. Some of the biggest complainers are all criminals.
Yeah, exactly.
Even in all the cop shootings, and you're not allowed to mention it, but in every cop shooting situation that the media jumped all over, that black gentleman, and I mean that's what it's always been. It's been a black male, and I'll bring up Breonna Taylor and say every one of these guys was a criminal. You know what I mean? Every single one of them had problems with the law, if not at that very moment that the thing happened, which is why a cop's around as well. Anyways, Breonna Taylor, the one female exception to the rule, because we don't have many of those, was operating a stash house for a very well-known drug dealer, which at the end of the day, the only reason there was a warrant being served on her apartment was because she was harboring drugs and cash for a drug dealer that they were following. So she would be alive today if she was fucking a guy that worked at the Hallmark store or at UPS or at Chipotle. Right. But she traded that to fuck a dope dealer
But
and use her house as a stash house. And unfortunately, crime brought the police into her life, which led to the shooting.
right, right.
And if she's not a criminal, she's alive.
Okay, so basically what you're doing is breaking the law, which then invites the police over, which then all of a sudden now, why the police always fucking with me? The white man's always, it's their job. Like, it's stop doing dumb shit and the cops won't bother you, right? But that's not the problem. The problem is there's always like the white man is holding them down. This shit is so old. It's so old.
Yeah,
like you could get on social media today. You could be a photographer. You know, there's so many opportunities where nobody can hold you down. You know, even me, I might say, oh, it's the mysteriousness of the site, or who runs the site, or I might be shadow banned for this reason or that reason. And we can get into that with politics, you know, because I believe a lot of the reason why I've been suppressed is because of the things that I like. I might like some shit that goes against the rules of the site, you know, so forth and so on. But at the end of the day, if I really wanted to get to the top, there's nothing stopping me. I can get my art out there. I could go to galleries. I could keep pushing and it's the hard work that gets you to the top. There's nobody holding you down. It's your thought process. You know,
it's your thought process.
If you have issues with all this shit, it's most likely because you're like on their wanted list, or, you know, you're a target in the neighborhood, or they have issues with what you're doing, or you're breaking the law. So it's like, you know, now I can recognize that. You know, could I recognize that back then? You know, I mean, it's, you know, hey, look, you know, you got 5 black billionaires right now in the U.S. You know, you have 5. You have Kanye, who I don't think ever sold a drug, to be honest with you. You have shit. You have Oprah. I'm pretty sure Dre falls into that. I think
he wound up becoming, yes, and he was never a drug dealer. He's actually a phony. Dr. Dre put on a fake image. He was never a gangster. He was brought into NWA. He's fake.
He was good with his beats. He was good with making music.
He just was good beat maker. And yeah, he got in with Eazy-E, but he was part of the world-class wrecking crew where they wore makeup and sequins. A lot of people think that Dr. Dre is gay or bisexual. We can go into that another time. But yeah, absolutely. There's very few. And at the end of the day, there's more black millionaires now than ever before. And sports being a big part of it. You know, there are more.
Jordan. Okay, wait, hang on. Jordan, which do you ever see Jordan sling a drug? The only thing Jordan slung was a basketball. You know?
Never in his lifetime was he. Yeah.
And Jordan.
And by the way, when we speak of that, how many negative interactions does Michael Jordan have with the police? How come we never hear Michael Jordan say, you know, I had this big problem, whatever, and you know, because it didn't exist.
Right.
He did all right. I wonder how many Arsenio Hall had, or Eddie Murphy. How come I've never heard Eddie Murphy, who also never dealt dope? How come you never hear Eddie Murphy talk about some horrible interaction he had with police?
Well,
because he didn't. By the way, another one. I've never heard Oprah do the same.
Right.
Isn't that ironic that some of these folks never have this problem?
Right. So I mean, my thing is, and I have I have this firm belief now that, and I'm convinced, I'm 100% convinced that, and we can go into this on the second show, but I'm firmly convinced this whole BLM movement, the Antifa movement, the whole Democratic Party, you know, they talk about like what we're going to heal but your entire party is based on racism, is based on the Ku Klux Klan, is based on slavery. You know, it was the other side that broke it was the other side that went in there, fought for you, freed you. It was Honest Abe that led the fight. And the Republicans, which were founded half black, half white, black alpha men, black or white alpha men who became friends and decided this ain't good no more. You know, so and now you're supporting everything that is racist. And in my heart, you're racist. You're racist.
Maybe based on what you just brought up, we can end on this note, and that is, I don't know the number exactly, but if you want to we can look this up, but to quantify how many white lives were lost fighting the Civil War, fighting to end slavery, how
Right.
many white people died
Right.
in the belief that this was wrong and that they needed these folks to be
Yes.
free, and
Yes.
that the ideology was so. When you talk about white people being racist, yes, there are some, and there are black racists and Asian racists and Hispanic racists, and that's a flaw in the humanity of the specific person, not in the entire race or nationality or background or whatever. I mean, you're painting with a broad brush, but let that sink in of how many white folks died fighting
Fighting
for the
freedom.
cause of black people all
Right.
the way back then, and that's
So that
something to
so that you can get on social media and talk
right and
shit
still gripe.
about how we're racist. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm sure there's forms of it. I'm sure there's forms of it. I'm sure that
Of
any
course,
the same thing with BLM. I'm pretty 100% positive
well,
all
they're
white people.
racist.
Yeah, even white people, bro. Even Spanish, anything. I'm not just this doesn't. I'm just not talking about
It's
black.
everybody.
I'm talking about everybody who in that party, everybody in that movement, either they're racist against one thing or another. And I'm not talking about like, oh, I'm racist against you because you're white. I might be racist against you because you're successful. I might be racist against you because you had the family that I never had. I might be racist against you because you had the success that I never had. I might be racist against you because you have the life that I never had. Not necessarily color of skin. There's lots of reasons why you're racist. It's just not, I'm not just specifically talking about color of skin. I don't hate on anyone. I like to see people succeed. I like successful people. I love to hear the stories. I love to listen to the successful stories. I find them inspirational. I find them inspiring. To
Yeah,
me,
they come
it's
in all walks of life.
yeah, I love hearing that shit. So when I
Mhm.
see my friends, or when and this goes back to the art to confirm everything that I'm talking about, because I would lend my art to people who I wanted to see succeed even more. So when you come into contact with a group of people or artists who are looking at you in a certain way, shape, or form, because the only simple reason is like, what's that white kid doing in this room? It's like, whoa, like I don't feel like helping you no more. Like,
Right. Yeah.
wow, like, what world
It's a
am I
shame.
living in? What world am I living in? I've been such a fan of your music and who you are all this time.
Yeah,
And
to be judged on such a small thing of not even knowing you as well, and to make a judgment of any disdain toward you because of your whiteness, you assumed, and not even to get to know the person. And again, the person was trying to do something artistically positive for you, and besides that, idolized you, or at least certainly looked up to you, or was a fan, for lack of a better term. And to be treated in such a negative fashion, it really sucks. We're hitting midnight. We're filming right now. It's midnight. We're going into we're at Thursday, December 10th. I'm gonna end it right here because there's so much more we could talk about, and take this into 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. And what we could do, we could do a part two, we could do a part three. Folks, I'm gonna let Marc tell you where you can find him, and wrap up his social media and his .com, and we'll close out on that note. I am Mr. Josh W. You certainly know where you can find me. I am now on Parler. I am starting to upload on BitChute. I'm starting to upload on Rumble. YouTube is not very friendly. YouTube does not like our side, the side that me and Marc represent, and neither do these other platforms. So it's time that the other platforms are starting to get some love and some traffic, and they certainly are doing that. So I'm integrating into those. In wrapping up, Marc, tell everyone where they can find you, and follow you, Hour of Power. Give everybody that information.
sure. So it's really easy to find me. You can just at Marc Mauro, MARC, MAURO, wherever. I pretty much have that locked up. And if I'm not there, you can find me at QUESTIONMARC. Anywhere anywhere you plug that in, you're going to either find me, my art, or you're going to find my company. Or my website, which is markmauro.com, or questionmark.com, and that'll bring you to the links. I do a show, on Monday night on Facebook, but I think I have to start moving it to different platforms as well. I don't get that much. I need to work out some. So I feel like there's a fresh start beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on, you can find me on MeWe, you can find me on Parler, you can find me on Rumble, and I still haven't made it to BitChute yet, but clearly I'll probably be on there.
It's a lot of work. People don't understand that. It's one thing that we're sitting here and spending the time and creating this content, because that's what we're doing right now, but then to upload it and tag it and describe it and break it down into clips and graphics and all that. There's a lot of work involved in this, and it can be very time consuming, especially when you're putting this on multiple platforms and whatnot. So I mean, everybody here is their own individual little artist as well, and and certainly it's a labor of love. At this point, I certainly am not making any money doing this, and maybe I will soon one day, and sponsors and whatnot, and that'll be great. But as for now, this is certainly a labor of love, and getting a message out and being able to speak with people like yourself, and learning, and having other people who will be able to listen and learn as well. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This is nothing we're doing live that we're posting now. This will be recorded. It'll go up on my formats, and Mark can feel free to use it as well. And I think we'll off the air, we'll talk about when we can do part 2. I have a feeling we'll be able to link up and do this often, and I've even talked about trying to link up with Mark about some projects. I have some documentary ideas myself that I think would be very interesting. And I again, I think the gist of when we were going to meet and talk today was to deal with a lot with politics. We did a lot of that yesterday, and we're going to do that in part 2. But this was a good learning situation for interviewing Mark, and so people got to see who he was, and then we'll start to get into because there's so much here of how did Mark go MAGA? How did Mauro goes MAGA? And it's a fascinating story on how it's not the same as mine, but this was someone who was very ambivalent to politics, somebody who did not pay attention at all, had many other things going on, and is learning very quickly, really just through his love of America and seeing the media portrayal of things that weren't making sense. They just weren't making sense. And he started realizing that he wasn't part of the cool think, as I call it, or the group think, as the more common term, and realized, man, I don't really think the way everyone's being spoon fed. And why you keep referring to, why did they have the attitude or the opinion that they had? What were they reading? What were they watching? How are they being spoon fed? And then you realize, holy shit, this is a propaganda machine full of lies. That before Trump was in office, I believe the media was at a 9% approval rating. Maybe it was 19. It was fucking hella low. I know that. And so why all of a sudden people listen to media now, I just have no idea. But that makes for another conversation. In wrapping up, Mark, is there anything you want to say before we tune out here tonight?
Yeah, I think what's important is that people realize I'm an artist first. I'll always be an artist. I love art. I feel like that in recent times, matter of fact, I found myself upset at myself last night because I see people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and they're out there fighting a really good fight, and they're trying to take control of what I feel is a positive mindset where they can really change a lot in this world. And I feel like I could be doing so much more than just being an artist. And I don't really know where to steer from here. So when you hear, I guess, us talk about politics, I want to make it clear that I don't pay attention to this at all. And the first time that I voted was, well, we'll say that for the next show.
But you do now, and because
we're
at a crossroads.
Yeah, it got to a point. Well, we'll explain it on the next show. But it got to a point. I didn't know politics. Let's just put it this way: before November 3rd.
There you go. And we're only at December 10th, so you're talking about a month. And he's getting a crash course, folks. He knows a lot more than a lot of people that only spent 1 month paying attention. We'll save that for the next show. Again, Mr. Josh Podcast, the MisterJoshPodcast.com is where you'll find this, the audio version of it. Find it on YouTube. We'll pop it up on all these other platforms. Mark's going to work his magic on some of the graphics and this and that. But we're going to tune out and say good night here. And again, thank you to everybody that's watching and that will be listening. And part 2 will be right around the corner. So signing out, I am Mr. Josh W. And again, we appreciate it. So everybody, God bless. Say a prayer and enjoy another day on this wonderful ball of earth that we love. And happy holidays and Kwanzaa and Diwali and Hanukkah and Christmas and all of that good stuff. Whatever your thing is that you celebrate, at least enjoy the Christmas lights, whether you celebrate it or not. It really looks good out there, and
Don't let the COVID scare you.
and don't let the COVID scare you on that note. And we'll go into that too next time because COVID is very scary. So on that note, we'll say goodbye here. And part 2 coming up right around the corner. All right. Thank you. Take care.
Take care, guys.